Still waiting for that bonus. Huh. The words sliced through the hum of clinking glasses and carols. Dean's voice carried easily across the long table, polished and heavy with amusement. Laughter followed too loud, too eager to please. The champagne in my glass fizzed like static, and for a second, I forgot to breathe. I'm Marion Ellery, 43 years old, senior accounts coordinator at FreightSoft, a logistics firm that likes to call itself a family. I've worked there 12 years, long enough to know which smiles mean safety and which mean trouble. Tonight, under the chandeliers of the downtown Seattle Marriott, every smile felt sharp. Dean leaned back in his chair, swirling his drink. Come on, Marion, don't tell me the company forgot you. HR's been sending out those bonuses all week. My mouth went dry. I haven't seen it. I managed. The laughter stuttered. Forks hovered. A few eyes darted toward Caroline from HR. Her expression flickered 1 second too long, and then she raised her glass as if to toast away the awkwardness. I'm sure it's just a processing thing, she said lightly. You know how banks get around the holidays. Dean chuckled, satisfied, and the conversation shifted back to vacations and ski cabins. But the noise dulled around me, like someone had turned the world underwater. The wine tasted sour. My hands trembled under the tablecloth, nails pressing into my palm to keep from shaking. I'd come tonight because attendance was encouraged, because saying no looked ungrateful. I'd even borrowed a sequined top from my neighbor so I wouldn't stand out as the one who couldn't afford sparkle. Now I could feel every pair of eyes pretending not to look at me, the single mom, the quiet one, the one who somehow never quite fit the brand. When the raffle started, I excused myself, murmuring something about fresh air. The hallway outside was colder, honest. My reflection in the glass doors looked pale under the golden light. If my bonus had really been sent, it had vanished somewhere. And by the end of that night, I needed to know where it went. The house was silent except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the rain tapping against the kitchen window. I hung my coat over the chair and kicked off my heels, feeling the ache travel up my calves. The sequined top I'd borrowed glittered weakly under the yellow light gaudy, out of place in this little rental where nothing ever really sparkled. On the table sat a pile of bills I'd been avoiding all week. The rent notice, the overdue electric, the note from my son's school about his cafeteria balance. I pressed my thumb into the corner of one envelope, just to feel something solid. Then I opened my laptop. The FreightSoft payroll portal blinked open, cheerful as always. Happy holidays. Team across the screen scrolled fake confetti. I typed in my login and waited. My last paycheck showed up as expected, but below it, under bonus, Holiday 2023, there it was. BN008. Processed. $8,000. My breath caught. I clicked the link twice. Then 3 times. The same result. Processed. Paid. But my checking account was empty. No pending deposits. No mistakes. Nothing waiting in limbo. I scrolled down and noticed a faint gray code beneath the line manual override. It was almost invisible, tucked between lines of numbers. I stared until the text blurred. I'd never seen that before. I'd worked in finance long enough to know manual meant a person had touched it, someone had made a decision. I logged into my bank to check again. Still nothing. The cursor blinked at me like a heartbeat. Through the thin wall, I heard Ethan's steady breathing. 14 years old, still dreaming through the storm. I thought about the patched sleeve of his winter coat, the one I promised I'd replace after the bonus came. My stomach tightened. The glow of the screen made the kitchen look colder, sharper. $8,000 wasn't just a number, it was groceries, rent, warmth. And if the system said it was processed, then someone, somewhere, had made sure I would never see it. By Monday morning, the rain hadn't stopped. It followed me into the office gray, steady, unbothered by umbrellas or good intentions. The open floor buzzed with leftover holiday energy, the kind that made everyone louder than usual, Someone had brought peppermint bark. Someone else was showing photos from Whistler. I turned on my computer and opened my inbox. No update, no deposit. Just a blinking cursor in a blank balance screen. I took a breath and began typing, "Hi, Caroline. Hope you had a nice weekend." I noticed my holiday bonus shows as processed in the payroll portal, but no funds have reached my account. Could you please confirm the status? I hit send, sipped cold coffee, and waited. Her reply came an hour later. "Thanks for flagging this. Marion, it may be a bank delay due to the holiday. Please allow 1 to 2 business cycles and let us know if it still hasn't posted." I reread it twice. The politeness was practiced, the kind that ended conversations before they began. I typed again, slower this time. My paycheck posted on time. Only the bonus is missing. Can you confirm it was actually transferred? This time, there was no reply. By noon, the laughter near the coffee station had turned to talk about how generous management was this year. I caught fragments, $8,000. Can you believe it? And the phrase retention adjustment from one of the project leads? I'd never heard that before. When I asked casually what it meant, he shrugged. "Oh, HR stuff. Keeps people from leaving, I guess." Then he smiled and changed the subject. Back at my desk, I opened my printer queue, my pay stub, my bank statement, Caroline's email. I printed them all, one by one, sliding each page into a plain manila folder. On the tab, I wrote a single word in black ink: December. Outside, the rain streaked the windows like static. Inside, I felt something colder settling in a quiet certainty that this wasn't just a clerical error, and that somewhere above me, someone already knew. By Tuesday morning, the silence had weight. Caroline hadn't replied, and my folder labeled December sat heavier in my drawer than it should have. I stared at the gray code on my pay stub again. Manual, override the words pulsing like a bruise I couldn't stop touching. I thought of Brian Novak, the only person in payroll who ever spoke to me like a human being. We'd worked late together on a budget reconciliation last spring, the kind of mind-numbing task that makes two quiet people allies by necessity. He wasn't chatty, but he was decent, careful, the kind of man who double-checked numbers and held doors. I opened Slack and typed before I could second-guess myself. "Hey, Brian, sorry to bother you. Have you seen codes like manual override on a bonus line before? Mine says BN08, trying to understand if that's normal." I watched the 3 gray dots appear, then vanish, then appear again. Finally, his message popped up, not words, just a single emoji. My stomach tightened. I waited, fingers hovering. A minute passed. 2. Then another message arrived. "Check for manual override. If you see it, don't ask around." That was it. No greeting, no sign-off. The chat status flipped to away before I could type another word. I scrolled through the pay stub again, every detail sharper now. There it was, BN08, manual override. Not a glitch, a command, a choice. The office hummed behind me with the clatter of keyboards and the low buzz of small talk. But it all sounded distant, like I was underwater. That night, after Ethan fell asleep, I opened my laptop in the dark kitchen. My hands shook as I took screenshots of every page: payroll portal, transaction ID, bank statement. Each image went into a new folder on my desktop. I named it recipes, like the ones I never had time to try. When I finally closed the lid, the reflection in the window looked foreign, tired, alert, and suddenly aware that the problem was bigger than one missing deposit. By Thursday, the rain had turned to a thin mist that clung to everything: glass, hair, skin. I met Janet at a coffee shop near Pike Place, one of those places that smelled like roasted beans and regret. She'd once handled accounts for a small construction firm before it folded. Now she worked part-time in retail. She was the only person I trusted enough to show the folder. We sat by the window. I opened my laptop and turned it toward her. Screenshots, payroll logs, and that gray line BN08, manual override. She scrolled slowly, her brow tightening. "This isn't a glitch, Mari," she said finally, voice low. "Manual override means someone made a change by hand. You don't see that in automated payroll ever." I felt a pulse in my neck. Could it be a system test or audit hold? Janet shook her head. "Not if it's marked processed. That means it was approved, then intercepted. Whoever did it wanted the books to say paid without you seeing a dime." She leaned back, eyes narrowing. "It's clean work, though." Whoever handled this knew what they were doing. Her words settled like dust, slow and choking. I watched the espresso machine hiss behind her and thought about the word intercepted. It made my bonus feel less like money and more like a message. Janet reached for her mug. "You should document everything, dates, emails, screenshots. If it escalates, you'll need a trail." That night, I sat at the kitchen table again, the bills pushed to the side. I opened a new notebook, the one with the maroon cover Ethan had bought me on Mother's Day. On the first page, I wrote in block letters bonus 2023. Beneath it, I listed the sequence December 16th, processed, December 18th, manual override, December 20th, HR brush-off. Each line steadied me a little, like the act of writing pulled me back from the edge. The fear was still there, but now it had form dates, evidence, intent. Someone had pressed that key, and somewhere, they were certain I'd never find out. By Monday, the summons landed in my inbox like a stone in water. "Hi, Marion. Could you stop by HR at 2:00 p.m.? For a brief clarification." The word clarification did a poor job of hiding its edge. I knew enough corporate language to translate it. Something had been noticed. The conference room smelled faintly of lemon polish and control. Caroline sat at the head of the table, her pearl earrings catching the light. Dean occupied the chair beside her, jacket off, sleeves rolled up as if this were some casual check-in. "Marion," Caroline began, with a smile rehearsed too many times. "We wanted to thank you for your attention to detail. Not everyone keeps such careful records." Dean nodded, lips tight. "You're one of our most reliable people. That's why we want to make sure there's no misunderstanding about the bonus disbursements." I folded my hands in my lap. Steady. "There wasn't a misunderstanding," I said. "My bonus was marked as processed, but never paid, and my pay stub shows a manual override." Caroline's smile flickered. A single heartbeat of stillness. "Oh, that," she said, tone light. "Sometimes internal codes appear when payroll runs adjustments for retention purposes. Perfectly normal. Then why is mine missing?" Dean's chair creaked. "These processes can be complex," he said. "You wouldn't want to misinterpret something outside your scope." The air thinned. Caroline leaned forward, her voice lowering into a calm meant to sound kind. "Marion, we appreciate your diligence. Truly. But sometimes bringing unnecessary concerns can affect evaluations. We wouldn't want your excellent record clouded by a misunderstanding." There it was, the warning tucked neatly inside a compliment. I nodded once, stood, and gathered my folder. My hands were trembling, but not from fear. Outside the glass door, the hallway buzzed with keyboards and muted phone calls, the sound of people pretending not to hear. I walked back to my desk, sat down, and opened my notebook to a clean page. I wrote the date, the time, and Caroline's exact words, then underlined them twice. A week later, another email arrived from HR, this one shorter, colder. "Marion, please join us in Conference 3 at 10 a.m. to finalize clarification on your payroll concern." The word finalize carried a weight of its own. I printed a few extra pages that morning, copies of my pay stub, the emails, my notes, and slipped them into the folder marked Bonus 2023. Then I walked to Conference 3 with the quiet steadiness of someone who had already accepted the worst. Dean was there first, leaning back in his chair, fingers laced over his stomach like a man waiting to enjoy a show he'd already seen. Caroline sat beside him, her folder neat, her lipstick perfect. "Marion," she began brightly, Thanks for coming again. We just want to close the loop on this issue and make sure we're aligned. Dean smirked. These things are complex. Sometimes the system flags the wrong entry and people get confused. I'm not confused, I said, placing the folder on the table. I'm looking for accountability. He raised an eyebrow. Big word for a small discrepancy. The door opened before I could respond. 3 people entered, 2 men in dark suits, 1 woman with a compliance badge clipped to her blazer. The air shifted instantly, like the pressure before a storm. Apologies for the interruption, the woman said. Calm and crisp, effective immediately. All conversations related to BN08 bonuses are under legal hold. No documents are to be altered or destroyed. Dean straightened. Excuse me, this is a private HR meeting. Not anymore, she replied, placing a sealed envelope on the table. All data connected to BN08 transactions is now secured for internal investigation. Caroline's fingers froze mid-page. Dean's face lost its practiced color, the smirk draining into something brittle. The compliance officers began collecting copies of files from Caroline's folder, speaking quietly into earpieces. I didn't move. My hands rested calmly on my own folder, unopened. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't the one trembling. The chill in the room no longer belonged to me. 2 days after the legal hold, I was called into a small conference room on the 12th floor, a place I'd never been invited before. The windows overlooked Elliott Bay, gray and endless, and a pot of untouched coffee sat between 2 auditors who introduced themselves by first name only. Their voices were calm, stripped of warmth. They began with questions, dates, login times, versions of documents. I handed over my copies, 1 page at a time. They didn't react, only noted. Finally, one of them turned his laptop toward me. The spreadsheet filled the screen, row after row of numbers bonus lines, employee IDs, the same BN08 code beside every name, in the final column. A note, ready pool, executive incentives. I felt my throat tighten. How many, I asked quietly. The woman replied without looking up. Dozens. Possibly more. Some were redirected quarterly. She paused. Yours was among the earliest. The numbers blurred together. It wasn't just me. The bonuses hadn't vanished. They'd been siphoned upward, stolen by the same people who toasted teamwork at the Christmas party. That evening, after the meeting, my inbox pinged with a message from Caroline. Hi, Marion. We'd like to resolve this matter quickly and amicably. The company is prepared to issue your $8,000 bonus plus a $2,000 goodwill payment upon signing a standard confidentiality agreement. Please confirm by tomorrow. I read it 3 times. $10,000 would cover rent for months. Fix Ethan's coat. Buy quiet. My cursor hovered over reply. Then I looked at the folder on my desk, Bonus 2023, the one full of every lie they'd tried to bury. I typed 1 line and hit send. I declined to sign an NDA. I will wait for the investigation's findings. The next morning, no one met my eyes in the elevator. Conversations stopped when I walked by. But for the first time since this began, the silence didn't feel like fear. It felt like proof that truth had started to echo, and someone upstairs was finally listening. It happened on a Thursday morning, one of those gray Seattle days where the sky presses low against the buildings. I was halfway through a spreadsheet when the company-wide email landed in everyone's inbox at once. Subject Leadership Update. Effective immediately. Dean Halbrook has been terminated for cause. Caroline Frist has resigned. Interim leadership will be announced shortly. No explanation, no apology. Just the sterile precision of damage control. A hush spread across the office floor. Chairs squeaked. Screens froze mid-scroll. Then came the whispers low, incredulous, hungry. Did you see it? For cause? What happened? Slack threads lit up faster than anyone could pretend to work. I read the email twice, then minimized it. My hands were steady. Around me, the air felt different, lighter, cautious, like the first breath after thunder. By noon, Word spread that Dean was cleaning out his office. I passed by quietly on my way to the copier. The hallway smelled faintly of coffee and cardboard. His door was open. Dean stood behind his desk, sleeves rolled up, the same as in every meeting, but the confidence was gone. His tie hung loose, and his hands trembled as he fit papers into a box. The Christmas garland still looped across the window from December, faded now, half the lights dead. For a moment, he looked up and met my eyes. No smirk, no sarcasm, just recognition. The kind that comes when someone realizes the story has shifted and they're no longer the author. I didn't stop. I didn't smile. I just nodded once and kept walking. Back at my desk, the murmur of gossip carried through the cubicles. Some people sounded gleeful, others nervous. I felt none of it. My screen glowed with the same folder that had started all this bonus 2023 still there, still mine. Outside, a patch of sunlight broke through the clouds, the first in weeks. It hit the glass wall of Dean's office and spilled across the floor like quiet evidence that something had finally changed. 3 weeks passed before the envelope arrived, plain white. No logo, just my name typed neatly across the front. I found it waiting on my kitchen table when I came home from work, slipped beneath the pile of flyers and unpaid bills. The return address read Freight Soft Compliance Division. Inside was a single-page letter. We sincerely regret the mishandling of your holiday bonus. You are awarded $8,000 in restitution plus an additional $8,000 in compensatory adjustment. Please expect a deposit confirmation within 3 business days. $16,000. For a moment, I just stood there, reading the lines over and over until they stopped looking real. The words didn't feel triumphant, only still, like water after a long storm. I set the paper down and exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. When the deposit cleared, I paid 3 months' rent ahead and caught up on every overdue bill. Then I took Ethan shopping for a new winter coat. He picked one lined with navy fleece, zipped it up to his chin, and smiled at his reflection. The duct-taped sleeve was finally gone. I gave notice at FreightSoft the following Monday. The new company, smaller, quieter, didn't care about Christmas galas or loyalty speeches. They just wanted the work done honestly. On my last day, I packed my mug, my notebook, and the folder marked Bonus 2023. I left it behind in the recycling bin. It had served its purpose. That December, I strung new lights along our small apartment balcony. Real ones this time, warm, steady, no flicker. Ethan handed me the tape, laughing when one bulb refused to stay straight. Inside, the heater rattled, the smell of cinnamon drifted from the oven, and the world, for once, felt simple. I stood by the window, looking out at the rain-glossed street, and thought of Dean's pale face, of Caroline's silence, of every late night that nearly broke me. Then I smiled to myself, quiet and sure. The ledger doesn't lie.